Hi, I'm holistic nutritionist Amy Ritchie, and today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest buzzwords in health and nutrition right now, inflammation. So I want to start by pointing out that inflammation is not always a bad thing. It's your body's natural response to injury, irritation, or invading microbes like viruses and bacteria. So for example, if I was to scratch my hand and there was redness and swelling and heat to the area, that's a sign of inflammation. So it's the body's immune response that brings in healing to that area. So that short-term acute inflammation in response to an injury, such as a scratch to my finger, is the kind of inflammation that's beneficial for the body. So when you hear about issues with inflammation, usually what we're talking about is the chronic low-grade inflammation. So this is an ongoing inflammation that is linked to many chronic conditions, from things like anxiety and depression to Alzheimer's to cardiovascular disease, arthritis. Most chronic health conditions have an underlying component of inflammation. So ongoing inflammation can be caused by things like a diet that contains lots of inflammatory foods without having anti-inflammatory foods to balance it out. So today we're going to be talking about some foods that can cause inflammation, as well as some foods that can help decrease it. And I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe for golden milk, which is a bright orange drink that can really help with inflammation. So the foods that I have in front of me here are some foods that are really great for decreasing inflammation, and you'll usually see them listed as anti-inflammatory foods. So these two, salmon and walnuts, are both very high in something called omega-3 fat. So this is something that the body cannot make on its own. It's an essential fatty acid, meaning you need to obtain it from your diet, and that is in order to help with inflammation. So when we're talking about balancing out those inflammatory foods with the anti-inflammatory foods, the omega-3s are really important. Fish is the best way to get it, and there's an acronym called SMASH, which is salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. So these are the fish that are very high in omega-3 fats. I brought salmon out because I don't see very many people eating things like herring and anchovies anymore. So if you're trying to get it in through fish, salmon's a great way to do it, specifically wild salmon. So walnuts are a plant-based source, but they don't contain quite as much as fish. So if you're vegetarian, definitely add in things like walnuts. Also chia and flax contain some omega-3. If you are someone that eats animal products, I would definitely recommend having salmon once to twice a week. And the canned salmon is fine as well. I would prefer that over a canned tuna. So now we have turmeric and ginger. So these herbs are very anti-inflammatory, and turmeric is what we're going to use in our golden milk today. Turmeric as a root looks just like ginger, and they have very different flavors. So ginger is great to use on fish or to make ginger tea, super anti-inflammatory. And turmeric has been studied for things like arthritis, so it's really great at decreasing inflammation, either in supplement form or using very regularly in your food. So in this bowl I have extra virgin olive oil. This is probably the most studied food in terms of decreasing inflammation, and it actually acts on a similar pathway as NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, so things like Advil and aspirin. So it helps inhibit some of the same enzymes that Advil does, so it can actually help with pain relief and inflammation in that way. Fruits and vegetables in general are extremely anti-inflammatory. Some that we know have great anti-inflammatory activity are things like tomatoes, grapes, also berries, and anything that's bright and green is going to help with inflammation as well. So we talked about some great anti-inflammatory foods. So while you're increasing those in your diet, it's great to start to decrease some of the more inflammatory foods. So that's going to be things like any processed and fast foods, excessive amounts of low-quality red meat or processed meats like sausages, hot dogs, deli meats, lots of alcohol, sugar, white flour, and anything with a lot of added preservatives and chemicals are all going to be more pro-inflammatory. Also, if you have any specific food intolerances or digestive issues in response to certain foods, those are going to be things that you want to address as well, because if you are having that reaction, there probably is some level of inflammation in response to that. So I would start by focusing on adding in more anti-inflammatory foods and worry less about what you're taking away and more what you're adding in, and naturally that balance will start to shift. So today we're going to be making something called golden milk. So this has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years, and it's a really anti-inflammatory drink. So in it we use turmeric, which is the herb that is incredibly anti-inflammatory. It's really bitter. It's quite a strong taste. So if you haven't used it before, I recommend starting with a really low amount. I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon into our golden milk today. So turmeric's great to add to all kinds of recipes, from soups and sauces and stir fries and stews, and I add it to my eggs even. And if you just use small amounts, you'll get that anti-inflammatory benefit without the taste being overpowering. So we're also gonna add about 2 cups of almond milk, making sure it's an unsweetened variety as well. But we are gonna bring a little bit of sweetness in with a raw honey. So raw honey is great because it's antimicrobial as well. So it has the benefit of helping with any bacteria or viruses, and it does contain some minerals and nutrients as well. We're gonna add some coconut oil. And the reason for the coconut oil is turmeric is not absorbed very well in the body. So if you add a little bit of fat to it in the form of coconut oil, as well as a little bit of black pepper, it really increases the absorption and availability of the turmeric. So anytime you cook with turmeric, having a little bit of a fat source in there, as well as some black pepper, again, will help with the absorption of that. And then finally, we're gonna add a little bit of cinnamon as well. So that is our golden milk. We're gonna blend it up, and it's like a warm latte. The amount of turmeric I use isn't too overpowering, so it's a really delicious drink to have late in the evening, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like in a minute. All right, and we have our finished product, the beautiful golden milk. So this is a great drink before bed, no caffeine, that really anti-inflammatory effect. Cheers.